Good morning, everyone. Giving you a training, a demo training about the AlterYX. I would talk about myself. I have a 5 years of working experience in data analytics. So I started with an internship in Wipro, and gradually I worked in EY, and then with the Omnicom Media Group, and then with the PwC. And currently I'm working with EXL Services. So the past experience which I have is completely into data analytics, in which I work with AlterYX, the visual tools like Tableau, Power BI, SQL servers, and also with Spotfire. And the main basic stuff which I used to work on was Excel and VB. So these were the stuffs I used to do. And there we used to get the data. Basically, my work was to get the data from different sources. Maybe it's if I'm working on a media data, so it's what the media data I have to grab it, or maybe I could get it from the on the on like we have to pull it ourselves from any sources or any inputs which we have, and from there we used to get the data. We used to manipulate that into the AlterYX. We used to transform that data. We used to do all the data wranglings and everything over there, and then we used to work around it with all the stuffs and everything. We used to, and then the next stage would be of visualizing the data. That would be like visualizing it on Tableau or maybe on the Power BI, depending on the requirements and everything. So that's how it worked. And then for the storage and for historical purposes, we used to just put it in the into the storage base, that is the SQL or maybe the workbench, that is the lecture workbench and everything. Apart from that, I also have 2.5 years of providing a corporate trainings to the business groups in the organizations. I have provided some trainings in PwC as well for the AlterYX and everything with the people higher and above, and also with a large group of people in the Omnicom Media Group. So these corporate trainings I have basically provided on AlterYX, based on how the basic introduction, like how AlterYX works, how we manipulate the data, how we wrangle the data, how the works have been done, and all these stuff and everything has been done. This is about me, today's agenda. So that is about what we are going to cover today in these topics. So they are basically about the introduction to AlterYX. So the introduction would cover along about understanding of what all AlterYX designer is there, how the AlterYX works, what is the AlterYX designer interface, how the user and the workflow settings works on. This all we will be covering on it. So basically, how what to understand, what is understanding of AlterYX designer, and how it goes on. Then for that, I will just show you the interface, that how it goes and how the interface looks along. So I just show you. This is basically the interface, that is the AlterYX. So you can pretty much download it online. We have a free trial version right now. So there were a lot of versions which were coming on. So this is around the 2021.2, which is the latest version right now. So as the version increased, there was some more type of data and everything has been included. For example, in this latest version, we right now have some machine learning tools as well. So if anybody's from the background of machine learning or something, they can just have it automated. Like if they want to write some codes of Python, they want to automate something with the machine learning, they want to see it, then they can have that. If you want to test any of the mining activities, you can do that as well, which is also pretty much feasible. So these are some. Then you have data investigations right now. So basically, if I would say about, like, there are many of the industries which are basically into the audit sectors and everything, and they work on it. So they pretty much use this section. So earlier it was like the investigations have to be done manually by the people, but now with AlterYX, they can have their basic data profiles being manipulated. If they want any field summary to be done, that can be done. So this is what all works on. So basically, this is what AlterYX does. So it's a very simple version. You can just go on, download it, and you can simply get it. You just need laptop with any of the windows available and a 64-bit processor that would work around for just downloading it. That's all. Nothing else is required to download it, and you can just enter your details of like your email ID, and you can start up free trial versions, which is available for 46. And the license version, which we talk about, it's a paid, so that's kind of bit costly if you see around. So it's like 3 to 4 lakhs, 3.5 lakhs for the USD dollar. So that's a high cost. So it's always people are using it like if they want to practice it first, so they can use it on the for like for a 14 days trial with their email IDs and everything. So this is what the interface looks like basically. Like what's the basic AlterYX designer? Here is the basic configuration window if you see. So these are my tool palettes. These are basically all the tool palettes available over here, like the input data, the preparation data, join, the pass. So these are the different tool palettes which we work around, which provides us with the different tools. Like for example, if you want to input any data, so you can just drag this over here, and you will get the input data over here. And by clicking on here, you can insert for any files or anything. So here you can just connect to any data or anything. So now they have some tutorial database. You can connect to them, or if you have your own files or sources to practice for, then you can just click on files, and you can just select a file, whatever you have in your database. You can just select it. You can just simply click on, let's say you click on open, and here your data is. So this is the way how it works around. So this is your configuration window. Basically, configuration means like if I say, for example, if I just remove this and I'll explain what's the configuration window over here works on. So basically, this configuration window consists of all these parts that what the layout should be. For example, I have three different things, which is layout, annotations, and connection process. So the layout would work like you have vertical and horizontal layouts. So that is, if I'll put this input and I go to the configuration window and I just select it as a horizontal, so it will just attach the data in a horizontal way. For example, like this, like this. If you want to attach it, it will be attached in a horizontal way. But for example, if you just attached it in a vertical section, if I just before that only, if I just select it on a vertical framework, for example, like this, then it will work around like in the vertical way. For example, like if I have this input data, I'll just click the browse to it's a vertical way. So it's up to you guys how you want to work around this and how you want to take it. So this is what it is. And after that, the annotations. Annotations are like, for example, if you want to write, for example, if I have something and I write this as, let's say, an input file, maybe. So do you want this annotations to be visible? Do you don't want this annotations to be visible? Then you can always hide it, you can show it, or show with respect to the tool, whatever you want. Now, the next thing is connection progress. What connection progress does is that whenever I input a file, let's say, uh, if I just input this file only, and for example, I just run it. So here we have the run button. You can just run it over here. Let's say if I run it, so see, it shows me that what's the time of finishing the what in what time period did the work was finished. So if you want this, you can do it, or you can manually just configure it. Or maybe if I just want, I have a browse tool as well, and if I run this window, so see, there is some amount of data that is being shown, like 11,256 BG. So that means how much the amount of data is there. It will show you the records, the bytes of MB or the gigabytes that flows around. So if you want to stop that, for, for that purposes, you can just opt out with the connection over here. I'm sorry. Yeah, you can just opt out with the connection. That's it. You can just say that show only when running. Maybe you want to hide that. Maybe you want to show it so that you can have a check that how much data is flowing and how much not. So now if I move to the next agenda, which is the AlterYX designer was talking about. So yes, this is what the AlterYX designer is, and here you have some favorite palettes available over here. So favorite palettes are what it does basically. They basically take you through. If you want, these are some of the favorites which I use on a constant, on a regular basis. So these are some of them which can be used. So I have put down marked as a favorite. So whenever I click on this, they would always show me over here. For example, input tool is something which is a regular base use. An output tool, if I want to have some out data to be outputted in Excel or maybe in the database or somewhere. So at that point of time, this can be done. Maybe if you want to input a text input is like, for example, if I'm entering something manually. So if I want to write it around anything over here, like, let's say, so that would be the text input, which would be basically shown like like this. Okay. Now, so this is what comes. This is what the text input does. So these are some of the favorites. So let's say if you want to add some favorites to your palette, some favorites to your palette. So what you can do is that you can just simply go. Let's say I went to this. Let's say I went to this, and I just click on this. I want to add this palette as this as my favorites. So I just click it as a star mark, and the next time whenever I go to my palette, see, this is added to my favorites. So this is something your favorites you can add on when you wanted to use it on a regular basis. Okay. So now moving on, what all these preparations does or something, I'll just explain you step by step that what all these does. So now next moving on to the input and output tool. So basically this ribbon has some of the tools which is available over here. Let's say a browse tool. So browse tool is basically helps you to see the data, like what all data is available in a complete view with in the side of the left side a configuration window that will let you know that what it all contains, basically the records, how many byte of data, a profile will be created like a table if you want to see it. So it's basically helpful when you want to see a large amount of records in everything, because sometimes when we input a data, we can't see the complete set of data over here. It's a small set of data, but when you are entering a large set of data, like for a 8 MB or a 9 MB records, then at that point of time, you won't be able to see. You will have some partial records. So if you want to see a complete view of the data, a profile view of the data, so that's why a browse tool is used as simply as we use in Google to browse something so that we can get a complete view of the data and complete view that what all we are searching for. So similarly, that works on. Now, moving on to the next tool, which is the date and time. So the date and time basically have will be telling you that what's the date and time now, because it's the tool which would be putting you for the date and time now. If you want to let know what's the date and time for today, you just simply pull this, you just run this, and you'll get to know. Okay, this is the time, and this is the date and time for now. That's it. So whatever output you will select, basically if you want to select for an output of date, month and year, so day, date, month and year, and you run it, so you'll get the output like this, like it's Friday 28th May 2021. So it will provide you with the date of today, the current date and the current time. Similarly, and there are lots of languages. If you want to see for different languages, you can go ahead and see with it. You have like date, month and year, maybe the date, month and year. So these are basically helpful when we have regular or quarterly reports, so that we can have and we have a refreshes of the data in a quarterly basis, or maybe like in the regular basis, so we can have this date and time now used at that point of time, and we can see that on what day I refresh. For example, if I had a report given today and I need to refresh that report the next week, so it would be helpful on the Friday. So today is Friday, and next Friday I have to again refresh the report with some new data. So let's say at that point of time, this tool is very helpful. You can put it and you can have the date and time that you are well versed that okay, it was last refreshed on this particular date. So now it is being refreshed now. So you have that glance of it. Moving on to directory. So basically, directory is nothing but it input the files to you. If you have some files, like if you want some folders, there are some folders in my directory. So basically, if let's say I have this folder of AlterYX, or maybe some sample data. So I have this data folder. I clicked on it. Okay, and I just run it. So it will show you all the directories in that data. Like right now, I don't have any file, but yes, if you have some folders in a file, so it will show you all the data what it has in it. Basically, if I just show you some data, let's say, um, yes. So let's suppose I have some data over here. I'll just pretty much run it. So see, it will show you that in that particular folder, what all files are available with their path, what is the directory of that path, what is the file name of it, if there is any short file for it, what is the creation time for it, what is the last time it was accessed, it was written, the size, and each and everything. So this is very helpful when you have a lot of data in a particular folder and you want to see that in that folder how many files are there. So that manual effort is being shorted over here. So now moving on to the next as the input data. So input data is nothing but just to bring on the data, like any input file. If you want to insert any files, it would help you to insert for a files. You just have the files, you just select it from here, and whatever files you want to insert, you can have it. It can be of Excel, it can be of PDF, it can be the Word file, anything you want. So we have a variety of options available over here, if you can see. So you can insert any AlterYX based Excel file, which is in the format of YXCB. So AlterYX itself has some database of itself himself. So from there, you have some data sources available. So you can insert it in that format. You wanted to have a comma separated file, you can do that. You want it as a flat file, like the simple text file which we are talking about, you can do that. If you want to insert it from any Google Maps, or let's say from any Tableau hyper extract, you want to read that file, you want to have any Excel files, you want to have it from any of the sources, you can do that. And apart from that, we have some source of data sources. So if you want your database to be in the SQL, or maybe in the SQL, or maybe in Adobe Analytics, or in SQL database, or anywhere, so in Redshift, so we can just connect with them. We can create the connections over here by setting up a quick connections to Microsoft or Oracle or something. We can just click on the quick connections. They will develop a connection and they would set up this. And you can pull your data which is available in the database, and you can just set up a new connection. Yes, but for that, if you want to set up a connection, the basic requirement would be that you should have that database in your system. Like if you're selecting it from, let's say, if I would select it from a SQL server on a data source, or Microsoft SQL server, so I should have that available in my system. Apart from that, I won't be able to connect it. Any of the systems, like if you're using your office systems, or maybe if you're using your personal systems, any of it, so you should have it connected. So with passwords and everything. So let's say if I want, like we have some lot of data which we need to connect in our organization, which are stored in a database itself, and we need to manipulate something over here. So we can collect it with that. Now, apart from that, there are some galleries. So AlterYX provides us with a facility of gallery as well. So gallery is something where you can have some view of it, like how the some workflows or some macros which different people have created and have been saved over there for the help of the other people. So there you can have some data for the practice over here in the AlterYX. So with that purpose, you can just connect it from the gallery. You just need to add a gallery over here. Just need to enter the URL and just select on the connect. And you can easily pull the data that are available on the gallery for the practice purpose of any purpose you need. So I think that's all. That's it for input data. So now we have the map inputs basically. So whenever we need to have a map data to be connected over here, let's say I pull this map data over here, I want to connect it. Basically, it draws or select your map objects. Map is like you want to connect some maps or something for some purposes. You want to connect the data of the maps. You want to draw it manually. They have the option of draw or select. If you want to select it, then you have to select the areas and everything, how you want to make the map, how you want to create it, how you want to see it. For example, I have this input data and I want to see the map for this data. So for that, I can do it. Which have a latitude, yes, they would have a preferable configurations that they should have a latitude and a longitude data as well for the references or anything if you want to see the map for any existing data. But if you want to see the reference, for example, if you want your data to be input, then you can just have these like add area polygons or something, or maybe the field map or something. You can open it, you can have a reference to it. See, you can see the map over here. So that's how it works. Now you can just label if you want to label it on the basis of store number, or maybe basis on address, or maybe basis on a latitude. Maybe you just need to see the city, so you can have a look of it. Want it like this way, want it this, anything. Like any way. You can increase the size, you can decrease the size. So it's just a graphical representations. There can be a YXDB database, so that's the AlterYX database extension if you want to see in that way. And if not, then you can go ahead to see with the other data as well. Okay, so that is what it shows on, and that what it hides on. Now coming on to the output data. So output data is basically if this is my input and I want to get it in an like an Excel file. I want to output it to the Excel file to be able to just pull out the data anywhere so that I can have it for my reference, or maybe to put it in a database or anything. So that can be basically done. So that's about the what we moved on. Next topic, which is being handled on it, is like reconstructed data or the data processing that we work on. So these all were the topics which I go on. So next, this is what the course curriculum is, which is being provided to you by the MindMajix itself, and this is what the course which we would consider, in which we would have some basic introduction about AlterYX, what is AlterYX Designer, how it look like, how we reconstruct, how we process the data, how we join the data from different sources, maybe how we are handling the data, creating a statistic report, macros to be created, and regression techniques, clustering. Finally, we will have a case study and some practice tests and interview questions. So I would be providing with some interview questions and everything, and we can work on it. And we would have a case study. Obviously, I would be giving a case study to you guys. If I would be the trainer, then I would be giving a case study to you people, and then you would be working on it. We can take up the questions and work on the same. It completely depends on how you are choosing your classes, how you're working on it. It's a duration of 25 to 30 hours, but it completely depends on how people chooses. If it is like a regular class, so obviously it would take a bit of a month or two. But if it's a weekend class, then it would take up. So however it is being chosen and however it's work, so in that way it would be taken up. And obviously that in this way we would be preferring the classes and everything. What's the importance of AlterYX in the market? So basically, AlterYX is used anywhere right now in every task, in every field handling of the AlterYX tool. It's not only for gaining the knowledge, but yes, it's a high demand because everyone have such a large and a huge data that it's impossible to process it. So that's how it works on, and that's how we need to do it. And we have a large and huge of data which is not possible to be manipulated in Excel anymore, because Excel has some limitations, whereas Alteryx comes with no limitations of the data. Obviously you can have a large of 9 MB of data or 9 GB of data, you can process it and it's very quick. And so that's why it's a clear path for any certifications. And if you want to go ahead with some certifications or any stuffs, you can do that as well. So yeah, talking about the certifications. So yes, you can go ahead with the AlterYX certifications as well. There are three certifications which AlterYX basically provide. The AlterYX Designer Core, the AlterYX Designer Advanced, and the AlterYX Designer Expert. So the Designer Core and the Designer Advanced are free, but the AlterYX Designer Expert is paid. So this is some high level expert level configuration which is being paid, is not free. But the other two, which is AlterYX Designer Core and Designer Advanced, they are very much free. You can just have it. You can just go to the website. I will provide you with the link, and you can just go ahead and you can just have your certifications done. And it will be very beneficial for you guys. It's a simple questions, not the whatever basics we are going to study. You will have all those things only in your questions and everything. So yes, they would have some hours, they would have some particular questions, and you would have to pass them. And if you pass it on, then you can get a certification for it. For example, if I talk about AlterYX Designer course, so it has 80 questions and it is for 2 hours. So you can have this, and all the questions that comes up is very much pretty basics what we are covering around in this curriculum itself. These are some random topics which I just took upon right now. Apart from that, these are the projects which will be demonstrated, which would have some data like this was the first project, the second project, and the third project, which is for employee and department. It's a very basic project where you will have a understanding of the data preparations and everything. In this, you will get a complete data set of how data is prepared, how it is blended, how it is how basically the transformations is done in Alteryx, which you are pretty much going to learn if you go ahead together. And then if then the main is if you have to do any spatial analysis or anything, then at that point of time it is needed. These are the lab setups which is required: a basic connectivity of internet, which I already told you, and a laptop with a 64-bit processor. So you can have any Windows installed, maybe 7, maybe 10, maybe 8, anyone. So you can just download it simply by going onto the on Google, and you can simply download it with the latest version. Right now, the latest version is 2021.2, which is the latest, which I just showed you recently. That would be the latest versions. And there are some trainings resources which you can just have a like the knowledge based perspective or a knowledge or Alteryx community, which where you can just type in, you can have practice. If you have any doubts, you can post them while you're working and you can get the answers from there itself. So yes, that would help. Moving on, these are the links for some mock interviews. So basically, if you have to crack for any interviews, these are some practice links. So you can go ahead and you can just practice it for. This would help you. So these are some questions which is for the practice purpose. If you have any doubts or anything regarding your subjects or course timing or anything, you can just go ahead and discuss with MindMajix and with me if we continue. And if you have any doubts later on when we just connect as a, if I would be your trainer and we can connect. So obviously we can connect with it, and we can create a WhatsApp group as well, and we can have the queries sessions based on it, and you can have your query sessions and we can work around with your doubts. Or majorly, if I take the sessions, then obviously if I do some sessions in a first sitting, and obviously in the second set, then I would be just recapping whatever we did previously, and then we will be moving ahead. So depending on if you guys have any questions or anything, you can just reach out to me. Apart from that, I would also create a WhatsApp group, so that if anybody at any point of time and anything, so they can reach out to me. So yeah, that's it. So please provide your feedback. That's it from my side.